we'll go over text number 6 today, and then we'll talk a little bit about the pastime. I was tempted to, on such a day, just read through the translations of the pastime because it's so nice to hear. But I imagine that later on there will be a Govardhan Puja festival where that will also happen. And it's not that hearing the same pastime multiple times is a problem. That's actually quite nice. But since this is Srimad Bhagavatam class, we'll get a little bit into the philosophy, of course, the applied philosophy. What this pastime means to us. And so that's what mostly we'll get into this morning. And then I encourage you to attend the festival later as well. Okay, so 10:24:6. Jnatva chakarmani jano yam anutishtati vidusha karma siddhi syat yata na viduso bhavet. Jnatva chakarmani jano yam anutishtati vidusha karma siddhi syat yata na vidusho bhavet. Jnatva chakarmani jano yam anutishtati vidusha karma siddhi syat yata na vidusho bhavet. Please chant.
Jnatva cha karmani jano yam anutishthati vidusha karma siddhi syad yatha na vidusho bhavet.
Jnatva cha karmani jano yam anutishthati vidusha karma siddhi syad yata na vidusho bhavet.
Hare Krishna. Jyatva cha karmani jana yam anutishtati vidusha karma siddhi syad yata na vidusho bhavat. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Jnatva cha karmani jano yam anutishthati vidusha karma siddhi syad yatha na vidusho bhavet.
Hare Krishna. Jnatva cha karmani jano yam anutishtati vidusha karma siddhi syad yatha na vidusho bhavet. Hare Krishna.
Jnatva cha karmani janayam anutishtati vidusa karma siddhi syad yata na viduso bhavet.
Anyone else?
Hare Krishna. Jnatva cha karmani jano yam anutishtati vidusa karma siddhi syat yatha na viduso bhavet. Hare Krishna.
Anyone else? Okay. Jnatva, understanding. Ajnatva, not understanding. Cha, also. Karmani, activities. Janaha, the common people, ayam, these, anutishtati, perform, vidushaha, for one who is wise, karma siddhihi, achievement of the intended goal of activity, syat, arises, yatha, as, na, not, avidushaha, for one who is foolish, bhavit, occurs. Translation: when people in this world perform activities, sometimes they understand what they are doing and sometimes they don't. Those who know, oh, my computer is doing something funny. Sorry. Those who know what they are doing achieve success in their work, whereas ignorant people do not. Purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Lord herein informs His Father. So this is Krishna talking. Just to give a little background of where we are, because we're not going in sequence today. So a little background here is that Krishna has seen that his father is setting up for a pretty elaborate puja for Lord Indra, because Nanda Maharaj is a farmer, and therefore they offer yajnas to the devatas because Indra's in charge of rain. So obviously farmers very much appreciate rain, right? The rain fills up all the kundas and the cows drink from there. And so it's quite beneficial to have rain. And then also the grasses grow so the cows can eat. And so Krishna sees that his father's setting up for this yajna. And he also, he wants to serve a few purposes here. He understands that Indra, although Indra is a devotee, all the demigods, there's two things about demigods that we should never forget. Is one, that they're very pious. In other words, they've performed all sorts of activities in order to live that lifestyle. But also they understand that Vishnu is the Supreme Lord, and therefore they're demigods. And Krishna puts them in control of various things like the weather and the movements of the sun and moon and all the different planets and things like that. And so there are also, you would call them pious individuals, but do not have any connection with the Supreme Lord. They don't care to acknowledge his existence. They don't see him as supreme. And so they're also very powerful beings, but they're known as demons, right? So pious in a different sense. They're not impious. They have this pious credit where they're able to enjoy to a much higher extent than we humans do. But one of them is actually serving the Supreme Lord. They understand that they are subordinate to him, and the other ones are just enjoying without regard of any connection to the Supreme Lord, right? And so from time to time, the demigods, since they have this high position where they're in charge of material dealings like weather and the movement of the planets, etc., sometimes they become proud. And when they become proud, sometimes their recognition of the Supreme Lord sort of falls off into the background, right? And so sometimes they sort of lose focus on what's important, doing their very important job as a service to Krishna, but sometimes, the connection is momentarily lost. And so Krishna, in order to take the pride away from Indra, who is, quite comfortable in his position, but not always, recognizing the supremacy of the Lord. In order to do that, but also in order to, have this nice interaction with his devotees, and also to show who actually is the beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, to show that, although the devatas are to be respected because they give things like the proper weather and things like that, ultimately that all goes to the Supreme Lord because they're merely servants of the Supreme Lord, right? So in order to just, bring this all into context for everyone, what it means to be a devotee, what it means to also sometimes become proud of that position and lose focus of what it means actually to be a devotee, to keep that connection and that relationship with the Supreme Lord. And to, to remind us that the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices is the Supreme Lord. All of these things are served by this pastime. So when Krishna saw that his father and the other cowherd men were preparing this sacrifice to Indra, and he understood that at that particular time, Indra, was feeling quite proud, Krishna decided to perform this pastime. And so he's talking to his father. So we'll read the purport now and then we'll continue. The Lord here informs his father that people should perform a particular ceremony or activity only after thoroughly understanding it through discussion with friends. We should not be blind followers of tradition. If a person doesn't even know what he is doing, how can he be successful in his work? This essentially is the Lord's argument in this verse. Sri Krishna, as the young child of Nanda, would naturally be expected to show enthusiasm for his father's religious activities. It was his father's duty to give the son a thorough explanation of the ceremony. Okay, before we continue. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Govardhan Pachani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatani Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Umritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Translation again. When people in this world perform activities, sometimes they understand what they are doing, sometimes they don't. Those who know what they are doing achieve success in their work, whereas ignorant people do not. And I just want to read also Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. So we'll see, you see the BBT purport there. The first, I'd say 2/3 of it are actually just elaborating on what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in one sentence. So he says, one should do one's activities by first understanding thoroughly, taking the advice and intelligence of one's intimate associates, rather than doing things by imitation or custom. Right? So this is the important factor here. And so I Charu Chandra Dasan here, so clearly I'm going to be talking about principles and details and supporting it with this particular verse. So again, the verse, when people perform work, I lost my spot. Here I am. When people in this world perform activities, so any activities, some understand what they are doing, right? Or sometimes they understand what they're doing and sometimes they don't. I mean, sometimes they're just engaging in the details without understanding the principle, and sometimes they actually understand, right? Those who know what they are doing achieve success in their work, right? Because if they understand the principle, then there will be success, whereas ignorant people do not, right? So if we're just following details of a process, we may not actually be getting the benefit of that work, right? And so this is pointed out almost in every purport that Srila Prabhupada has written. This idea that we are to become Krishna conscious, to leave behind our self-conscious mentality, our desire to satisfy our senses, this paradigm that everything that is before me is somehow meant to serve me in a particular way, and divert that or redirect that consciousness from that to how is everything in my field, how is that related to Krishna, and how can I use it to serve Krishna, right? And so if we focus on that principle of how things are to be used in Krishna service, then we won't be so distracted by the details. But if we simply follow details, then we may. So in this particular case, Nanda Maharaj is talking about, tradition, right? So he's talking about upholding tradition. And the thing about tradition is only valuable in so far as much as it serves the Shastra, right? So some traditions are very valuable, right? In other words, if they come directly from Shastra, or if they come from the acharyas who follow Shastra, and then they are established in society, and therefore we follow that tradition, then the connection is there, the principle is met. And so therefore those details of that tradition are designed to keep us focused on what that principle is. And so some traditions, just you follow them because you know there's the connection there. But other traditions, if it's missed, if the point is missed, what the purpose of that particular tradition is, then it just becomes another detail that we become distracted by. And the most dangerous types of tradition to become distracted in just in the detail of it are the ones that are religious traditions. In other words, they're traditions that you follow that you think are connected to the Supreme Lord because someone from a religious background gave that to you. But if it comes from somewhere else, or if that connection is lost, we don't see that relationship, that sambandha, the relationship between us and the Supreme Lord, and how to interact in that relationship, then actually it's not helping us in our devotional progress. So the traditions that seem to be religious but actually aren't, those are the most dangerous ones, because other traditions, we follow them, but it's not as if we consider them religious traditions. We're just doing them as a matter of family tradition like that. And so we're not expecting it to elevate us. But when we think of a religious tradition, it's meant to actually elevate us, right? And so if that connection's not there, then we're going to be expecting something that'll never come. And then we'll just be frustrated in our endeavors. So the point here with Indra, and we hear a lot of these stories of Indra, he kind of gets a bad rap because most of the time he's a very good devotee, right? He's a very good example. That's why he's able to hold his position as the king of the demigods, right? But whenever he does slip up, then it's written about in Srimad Bhagavatam because we are to learn from that example, right? We as aspiring Vaishnavas have to have an example of an aspiring Vaishnava who is on a much higher platform than us making a mistake. Because if we don't have that example, we'll think that we cannot make a mistake, right? We'll think, oh, no, everything's going to be fine. I'll just chant Hare Krishna and, all will be well in this world. But in order to prevent us from keeping this mentality, from maintaining it, nurturing this mentality that, I'm in a decent state, we have these stories of devotees who are much senior to us that make occasional mistakes, right? And so one such other mistake that Indra made was at one point, he disrespected his guru. So his guru left, right? And then so the demigods had to get another priest to perform the sacrifices. Then another even more severe offense was committed to that guru, you would say. And at the time, the Daityas, the demons, right? In other words, the demons, they understand Vedic culture. They just don't connect it to Krishna. They don't connect it to Lord Vishnu. They think Lord Vishnu is just another one of the demigods, and he kind of is friends with them, but they really don't want to have much to do with him. They want to fight him, they want to defeat him, but they don't see him as the Supreme Lord. But they do follow the Vedic process, which is given by the Supreme Lord. So in this case, when Indra disrespected his guru multiple times, each time worse than the other, he was put in a bad position because the demons at the time, they also serve their guru. And so the demons at the time were serving their guru better than Indra was. And therefore, the demons actually took over the heavenly kingdom, right? Indra was knocked out of his position. And so they're wondering what to do, and finally it's made known to them that the only way to defeat this demon, who turns out was actually a devotee, Vritrasur, the only way to defeat him is you got to go to this specific Brahmana. He's always chanting. You have to ask him for his bones. And then out of those bones, you make this special weapon. And with that, you will be able to defeat. Because the point is that the potency is there in that Vaishnava's, power, right? And so they do. Indra goes and they get this, they talk this devotee into, leaving his body and giving them the bones, and the weapon is made. And then, so now there's the fight, right? So Indra's there and Vritrasur's there, the so-called enemy. And so they're fighting, right? And so finally Indra says, okay, well, this is the weapon that's meant to destroy Vritrasur, so I'm going to use it, right? So he throws this weapon, and Vritrasur, he's affected by it. It doesn't kill him, but he's very affected by it. No other weapon did anything to him, but this one, had an impact on him. And so Indra, seeing this, oh, see, now he's in trouble. Now I'm doing quite well. So then he picks up his own weapon, Indra's own weapon, not the one that's specifically designed to kill this demon, but the one that he's accustomed to using. And he throws it at Vritrasur, and Vritrasur catches it, throws it back, and it hits Airavata, Indra's elephant, and it sends him back such a far distance. And then again, Indra's bewildered, and he's thinking, oh no, what am I going to do? I can't defeat this guy. He's so much stronger than I am, right? And so Vritrasur himself, the so-called demon, starts preaching to Indra, hey, you're a fool. You're not seeing the connection here. You have a weapon specifically designed for killing me, and it's surcharged with the energy of the Supreme Lord, right? This is what you're meant to do. Just follow the instructions of the Lord and of the devotees, and just, pick that weapon back up and use that to kill me, right? So in that case, we see that the so-called demon was actually more of a devotee than Indra at that particular time, right? Again, it's brought out so we don't become too comfortable in our specific devotional service and lackadaisical in our service. So we see that sometimes, and then everything was made right? So, it's in general, the demigods are meant to rule the heavenly kingdom because they have that connection with Krishna. And so the world will run much nicer with, them in charge, and the demons, in their own realm doing their thing, right? But these pastimes are here to show us that there's never going to be a point, well, not while we're in this material world anyway, that we will be safe from pride or accidental fall down, right? So Krishna wants to show this. So what he does is he talks Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men into performing this sacrifice for Govardhan instead of for Indra. He says, all right, you already brought together all these nice ingredients and paraphernalia, but instead of worshiping Indra, you should just worship Govardhan. And so actually Krishna used, I think it was 5 different atheistic arguments. They're not even theistic arguments. Like, so first he was in karma mimamsa. He was like, no, it's really your activities that create, whether the rain comes or not. It's not Indra. If you perform your work properly, then the rain will come. So first he talks like that, and then he basically goes through a few different philosophies just to convince his father that we should worship Govardhan Hill, right? And he convinced him and all the others because Krishna is quite charming. And so they said, okay, yeah, let's do it. And then so everyone's coming from the village, they were coming for the sacrifice anyway. So then they just did it for Govardhan Hill, right? And so there they are, they're offering their various edibles and other paraphernalia that they've brought. And Indra, because he's proud, he gets very angry at this, right? So he sees, hey, what's going on here? These people, don't they know who I am? I supply the rain. They're supposed to be worshiping me right now. That sacrifice is meant for me, and they're worshiping a mountain. What kind of fools are these, right? And he becomes so angry that it's not that. So Indra controls the rain in general, right? So he can just dump any amount of rain on them and make them, sort of regret their decision. But he actually gets the Samvartika cloud. These are the clouds that they pour down the rain of universal devastation. The ones that, where the Garbhodaka ocean actually comes and fills the universe up to a certain level. So he's using those clouds. He's not just giving heavy rain, he's giving devastational rain, and it's focused on just that area. That's how angry he is that he was slighted, offended. And so Krishna, of course, he protects his devotees. So he takes up Govardhan Hill on his left pinky, just to show that really it doesn't really take so much effort. You can do this all day. I'll do this for 7 days, no problem. And then Govardhan Hill actually expands, so it can So everyone in the entire area can just come under and take shelter of this hill. And so it took 7 days for Indra to realize, okay, this isn't just a normal situation. This is, this has to be the Supreme Lord, because it's clearly someone more powerful than I am. And so therefore it has to be the Supreme Lord. And so he stops the rain. Krishna says, okay, everyone, you can go. Now, there are many things that happen in this pastime, which I'm sure will come out later in the day. One which is worth mentioning is that, so generally in Krishna's pastimes, because there are different rasas, right, in Vraj, there are different relationships that one can have with Krishna. And generally, depending on what time of day it is and what setting it is, one rasa will be more predominant than the others. So when Krishna wakes up in the morning, he's in the house of Mother Yashoda. And so Mother Yashoda is, doing all these things, dressing him properly and putting these ornaments on him and, packing up his lunch, feeding him like that. And so this is Mother Yashoda's realm. And so Krishna acts according to that relationship, right? Krishna acts in according to Mother Yashoda's relationship. So he's the son, he's subordinate to his mother, and like that. And it's not that it's not that the cowherd boys or the gopis aren't there, they're there in that same room, but it's just that this is Mother Yashoda's territory. And so that rasa is the focus, the Vatsalya rasa, right? And then they go out to the forest. And so Mother Yashoda will go out a little way, because you have the village and then you have the fields, the pastures, and then you have the forest. So Mother Yashoda, as long as she's in her realm, right, she'll follow along. And so Krishna and the cowherd boys are still, acting as sons of the, of the gopis. But once they enter the forest, then this is the realm of the gopas, right? Now notice, I'm going to go through all of these, and none of them are, all of them are Krishna's realm, but really what the focus is the devotees. So now the focus is on the gopas, right? So they're in the forest, and they're playing different games. Everyone has a packed lunch that they have, and each of those lunches, since Krishna is the jewel of Vrindavan, each of the mothers of all the cowherd boys, when they're preparing the lunches, they're actually giving special things. You say, you give this one to Krishna. This is special, especially for Krishna. So you make sure he gets some of this. And so all of the mothers are doing this with Krishna, right? So then they're playing games, and then when it's time to eat, then sometimes they're stealing each other's lunches, and sometimes they'll say, okay, Krishna, close your mouth. I'm going to give you this really nice, juicy rasgulla, right? And so he'll close his mouth and open his eyes, and they'll put like a flower in his mouth to trick him. So they're playing games. It's, this is the mood there with the gopas, right? And then, when it's a full moon night and Krishna feels like playing his flute and dancing with the damsels of Vraj, then the environment is that. It's all about the gopis, right? Everything about it is about the gopis. The environment, the fragrance of the flowers that are blowing in the wind, the cool waters of the Yamuna, everything. It serves those particular devotees, right? So in this pastime of Govardhan, all the devotees are there, which isn't uncommon. That, like I said, sometimes in certain situations, all the devotees would be there in all of the different rasas. But in this one, Krishna sort of reciprocates with each of them, sort of in secret. So it's, it becomes very sweet seeing how Krishna will interact with each of his devotees without disturbing the relationships of the other devotees. So they're all there for 7 days straight, right? And so, but he's interacting with each of them properly instead of just interacting with one of them. So generally in that situation, when all of the different types of devotees are there, it would all be all about the Vatsalya rasa, right? But it wasn't in that situation. There was reciprocations in many different ways that took place unbeknownst to the others, right? And so that's one of the very sweet things about this pastime. Of course, there are many, many sweet things about this pastime. So I just need to check the time because okay, we're good. Because of the half-hour difference, trips me out. So it's 8:24 there. So for us, as devotees, again, because I have to emphasize this as many times as possible, is that we should never in our devotional service feel that we are in a position that is such that we cannot fall down or that we cannot become distracted or proud, right? And so we should learn from this example and the other examples that Indra has been so kind to bless us with, that we can't become stagnant in our devotional service. We can't become distracted in any way. We can't be lazy in our devotional service. This is something that we have to constantly cultivate, because otherwise it means that we're cultivating our material consciousness, right? There's Krishna consciousness and there's material consciousness. And so if we're not actively cultivating our Krishna consciousness, then our material consciousness will automatically be cultivated, right? Because that's where the attention lies. We wake up, we perform whatever duty comes to our mind, and it's not in connection to Krishna, then that is our material consciousness becoming stronger and stronger and stronger. Whereas when we constantly engage in cultivating our Krishna consciousness by studying the Shastra, by following the instructions of the Guru, and by learning from the examples of the sadhus, and also obviously by chanting Hare Krishna, that comes in the line of following the orders of the spiritual master, then this whole process helps us to become more focused, less distracted, right? And so we have to be diligent about this. It can't be that, when we reach a certain point in our devotional life, we can just sort of like, relax about it, and okay, no, I'm situated in a good spot. No, we learn from Indra that that's not something that you do. Even Bhishma Dev, when Bhishma Dev was laying on his bed of arrows, and he was preaching to Maharaj Yudhisthira. Maharaj Yudhisthira was quite despondent because, he just fought this war and so many people died, and and from an external point of view, it looks like he just did this so he could gain a kingdom, an empire, actually. But that wasn't his motivation. But he was despondent that it was so unfortunate that circumstance had to happen in order to fulfill that. And even Krishna himself, who wanted all of that to happen, he couldn't satisfy Maharaj Yudhisthira. He couldn't take him away from that depression. So he went to hear from Bhishma Dev, right? And so Bhishma Dev is giving the instructions, and it's not that just, the Pandavas were there listening to Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev was going to speak. So then all the Devatas came down because they knew, okay, this is something important that's going to be said. All these, great rishis and Devatas and pretty much anyone who's anyone goes and they hear Bhishma Dev speak. So he's already on this elevated platform to begin with. And he's talking to Maharaj Yudhisthira. And of course, he's talking about Daivi Varnashram Dharma, how you have to engage your nature, but in Krishna's service, not just engage your nature for the purpose of, becoming more materially opulent, but in Krishna's service. So he's preaching bhakti, yeah. And then after doing this for a while, and Maharaj Yudhisthira is feeling okay. So after doing this for a while, Bhishma Dev, he understands that, okay, it's about time. It's, it's a nice auspicious time for me to leave my body. So now let me just do this. So he says in a verse, now let my thinking, feeling, and willing, which has been so long engaged in other occupational duties and activities, now be completely focused on Krishna, right? And so Bhishma Dev, who is just an exemplary devotee, you can see by his actions and by the way he talks, he's just an exemplary devotee. Even he wasn't quite satisfied with the way he, lived his life in that very nice way. And so at the end of his life, he wanted to clear all of those things away, right? And, when I first studied that, it dawned upon me that, there are so many more way major things that I have to clear away, before I'll be, properly situated to return back to Godhead. And so if I feel comfortable now thinking, okay, I did enough this year, now next year I'll do a little bit more, then I'm Looney Tunes, I'm crazy. So we can learn from, the positive examples, or we can learn from the negative examples, but somehow we should learn that we should never become lazy in our devotional service or lax. We have to constantly develop our devotional service so that we can progress on this path. So that is super important. So I think now probably about the time where I should stop for questions. I got to check again. Yeah, right? Yeah. If anybody wants to tell their favorite, oh, I moved my phone, so now my internet connections. Or if anybody wants to, tell their favorite aspect of this particular pastime, all of that is welcome. Please unmute yourself and do so. Don't be shy. A lot of great things happened in this pastime. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think if we have to speak about our realizations, it is about, like you were saying, don't be shy. We will have to admit where we have been too proud, making mistakes based on our pride. And all of these classes, not just this one, all of these classes really make me think about how to control those negative qualities that I have, and how much I'm falling behind. Anger and pride, I think, are two really difficult ones. But again, this pastime, for me, Damodar Leela that is my favorite Leela, just because that shows, or at least that teaches me about not giving up and not stopping. I haven't gotten anywhere in my efforts, but I'm not going to stop trying. And so that is what I am looking at from that one. But this one really does make me wonder and make me realize how far I have to go. Acharya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the awesome class. Since you asked about favorite things in this pastime, I'll just very briefly mention the two things about this pastime that I love so much. One is that although we do one day, we have on the calendar one day Govardhan puja, but the festival is actually like more than a week long from start to finish, from Krishna beginning to preach, and then Indra getting angry, and then after that he sends the rain, and then so many days holding it up, and it's a whole big thing that stretches on for more than a week. So I really like that about it, that after the Govardhan puja, one day festival is over, we could go on following the pastime and hearing more about it. And the other thing that really kills me every time when I reread this each year is Krishna using a bogus philosophy in order to convince Nanda Maharaj to do what he wants to do.
Yeah,
that it's
several.
It's great because it's a nice introduction to Karma Mimamsa philosophy, and it's just so clever and funny also. I really love that too. And I won't elaborate, but if you'd like to elaborate on that, that would be awesome. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you. Oh, well, on the first thing you said, I was just thinking, when you said, we could have a festival for, over a week. Wouldn't it be fun if we just for 1 year just did it, stayed inside and just for a whole week just talked about the pastimes of Krishna, didn't go outside, pretending that we can't go outside because it's, raining out there, and no, can't do that. So wouldn't that be a blast? I think it's a good idea. I think someone should organize that. And then Sobarade, what you were saying is that, so these pastimes, they can give us this sense of sort of hopelessness to see, because I have a long way to go, and we have this sense of pride that we're trying to get rid of. And as you said, even though by your own approximation you don't perceive that you've made any advancement, the fact that you keep going, Krishna very much appreciates that. In fact, Krishna appreciates more when an activity is performed and the result's not there, but you continue to do it anyway. Because if the result is there, materially speaking, if the fruit's there and you're doing it, then You could be doing it for the fruit, you could be doing it for the service. Who's to know? But when we continue on when there's no fruit, that means that we are detached from the activity. So that's there. And then so this sense of despondency or hopelessness, or somewhat even, it can fall in the realm of depression. So everything can be used in Krishna service, right? But also everything can be used not for Krishna service. So using this sense of hopelessness in Krishna service is just developing humility. But if it turns into low self-esteem, which sometimes it does, then it no longer serves Krishna, because then we're thinking so much of ourselves that we think, oh, I'm the worst at this, I'm the worst at that. And so, yeah, it's the balance that we have to find. And it was actually Varshana Maharaj. I'm sure he was also just quoting someone else, but someone was asking him about the difference between low self-esteem and humility. And so he said that low self-esteem is thinking less of oneself, and humility is thinking less of oneself, right? So it's the same words, but the stress is on a different word. So low self-esteem is you just think you're terrible, but you're always thinking how terrible you are. Whereas humility is you just realize that you're 1/10,000th the tip of a hair, you're part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. You understand the sambandha, the relationship between you and the Supreme Lord, and therefore act accordingly. Humility is just naturally there, right? And so the fact that you realize that there's a long way to go, and that there's a constant awareness that pride can come at any moment, and you still soldier on, Krishna very much appreciates that. It's good. But we also have to be careful that and this isn't for you, this is just in general, that we don't let it fall into the low self-esteem. And so the example I usually give on this one is, for example, and I've observed this among many devotees, is say, for example, that one morning you don't get up for Mangalarti. You were doing something too late, and so there's two ways that you can go about after, oh, I woke up, I didn't go to Mangalarti. If you focus on now my day is ruined, I'm not going to be able to accomplish anything, and you're just focusing on how terrible you are for missing Mangalarti, and you don't do the day, then that's not good. In other words, you started the day bad, you continued the day bad, you end the day bad. If you wake up and you regret it, you say, well, obviously my day would have gone much better if I woke up for Mangalarti, because I would have started the day with the proper mentality and with the right consciousness. But I shouldn't let that hold me back from performing the rest of my service as properly as I can. It means that we shouldn't just say, forget it, who needs Mangalarti, as long as I'm focused on the other things. That's not the point. The point is, sometimes there are mistakes that are made, but we have to learn from those, right? We have to use them to help us serve. So it should make you feel bad enough that you will be more likely to attend Mangalarti the next day, but not so bad that it prevents you from doing your service for the rest of the day. And so that's also the difference between low self-esteem and humility, right? And so these things, when we observe these things in these high-level devotees, we have to keep all that in mind. To what extent is this actually helping me improve my consciousness in Krishna, and to what extent is it hindering me from it? So when it's hindering, we let go of that part, and when it's helping, we embrace that part. And it's a delicate balance, but it always comes down to that principle over all the details, right? And so just like today's verse with the tradition, some people, they don't even know what they're doing or why, and it doesn't work for them. But those who know why, then it works, right? So, and the same thing with Shastra. We get these points in Shastra, these instructions, right? We read about these instructions and we say, okay, now, how do I apply this? Now, when we ask that question, how do I apply it and what's the purpose of it? Then we'll be more focused on actually the reason behind it, to serve Krishna. But if we just imitate the activities of others who are doing it, not knowing why they're doing it or what their focus is, then there's every possibility that, we aren't actually connected. And so we won't be making that devotional progress. And so that's that's something that we always have to be aware of and cautious of. And so the best policy is to always, as much as possible, basically, we should periodically adjust our schedules, that we engage more in things that we actually have a connection to Krishna. In other words, you can do your job connected to Krishna, right? But if you can't do your job connected to Krishna, make sure in the other areas where you have this connection to Krishna, make sure you do those. And then gradually you will learn how to do even your occupation connected to Krishna directly, not just indirectly, like offering the fruits of the activities or supporting your family who are devotees, but directly. That all is connected, because there is nothing but Krishna. This entire material world is made up of him. Everything is Brahman. And so the problem isn't that we're interacting with things. The problem is that we're interacting with them with the consciousness that this is here to serve me, right? Not this is here to serve Krishna. And so all we have to do is change that consciousness from how does this serve me to how is this to be used in Krishna's service? And that's in any realm of our life. Anything can be used for Krishna's service. So whatever's in our field, our realm, whatever is part of our reality, we just have to, or so-called reality, we have to see that in actual reality and use it in Krishna's service. And that's the lesson throughout, no matter what verse we're talking about. Is there anything else? I see that Acharya Prabhu had to sign off, so I regret not further elaborating on what he was talking about, but go ahead, Vindhyavali Mataji.
You can still elaborate, Prabhu, because the recording is going to be there, so I'm sure he's going to go back to it. Please do answer
Okay.
this question.
I'm still here and listening, Prabhu.
Okay.
Oh, there you are. So your name moved from one spot to another. So basically there were 5 philosophies, and I'd have to go back. Actually, I'll just go to my notes now and just refer to them. Because the acharyas point out that it wasn't just the karma mimamsa, but there were actually 5. Let me see if I can find it quickly. Oh, I might not be so quick with this, and I hate dead air. Mother Vinjali, did you have a reflection or a question? Because if you have a reflection, you can say that while I try to find this.
Go ahead and answer from Acharya Prabhu, please. I'm just
Oh
listening.
yeah, you can elaborate, Acharya Prabhu.
Yeah, I'm enjoying that.
Yeah. Because I'd have to refer to my notes, and you probably have it off the top of your head. So if you are able to, unmute yourself and elaborate more.
No.
I actually wasn't aware that it extended to other philosophies besides karma mimamsa. So if you ever do come across that reference, if you could send it to me, I'd love to read that. But I have nothing to add to it now.
Okay. Yeah, but it's funny. Yeah, as you mentioned, it's funny how Krishna himself will, just to serve his purpose, he'll actually present a bogus philosophy, just to fulfill his purpose. But he got away with it because he was, the charming jewel of Vraj. And so it's not that we follow that. It's not that we follow karma mimamsa. It's that if we understand that the supreme beneficiary is Krishna, then we don't have to worship the demigods. We can worship Krishna directly. But if we took the conclusion, in other words, if we got lost in the details of Krishna, tricking his father into performing the sacrifice, if from that we get this idea that, we just have to do karma mimamsa, we don't worship Krishna or the devatas, then, we will tend to have problems. And I'm still trying to find this. I'm scrolling through I just read it like an hour before class, but I was trying to decide what I was going to speak on. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was just go verse by verse and then give the acharyas little tidbits that they give, because those are quite interesting in themselves. But If anyone else has a reflection while I'm looking for this, please do so. Seems I should have found it by now.
Oh, Hare Krishna. Yeah, I'm just saying today is a very nice, good day to reflect on Govardhan, Okay, I'm reflecting on Govardhan when I was there in 2016. We did the whole parikrama. I did it I stayed there for 6 months. I did that about 4 or 5 times. And all these memories is coming back, and I have Govardhan, it's so dear to Krishna. Yeah, and I know many devotees, they have Sila of Govardhan, Govardhan Sila, and they're worshipping it. And by, because Govardhan is very dear to Krishna just by remembering, and Govardhan, which is none other than Krishna. And one question I say, Govardhan is also a devotee of Krishna and also Krishna. Can you, if you have time, can you explain that? How can we understand it?
Yeah, sure. So first, when Krishna was there and he took the form of Govardhan and he was accepting all of the offerings. So it's not that Krishna disappeared and entered into the mountain. It's that he expanded himself. So Krishna was still there and he's participating in all this anyway. And so Krishna took that form of Govardhan to accept that worship that all the villages were giving. But then he's also there simultaneously the same and different. Is that the answer to that question, or is there something more? Was there something more that you were looking for there?
I was just telling, sometimes we say we worship Govardhan as a devotee, but most of the devotees, they worship Govardhan as, as Krishna himself.
Right. Yeah, he's worshipped as Krishna himself. Yeah, Prabhupada mentions in his purports that, and we know this, that you can actually take a stone and you worship that as the Supreme Lord. And so that's a common thing that's done. So anytime, anything that's connected with Krishna directly can be worshipped, as Krishna. So Krishna is not different from his name, his fame, his pastimes, his paraphernalia, like that. We also worship the Guru as Shakshadhari Tvena, not different from Krishna, because he's serving the purpose of Krishna, not because he's some materially qualified special person, but because of that connection with Krishna. But yeah, Govardhan is worshipped as Krishna. So as such, ISKCON devotees at least, and even I think even Lord Chaitanya wouldn't step on Govardhan Hill. I think he stayed at the bottom. And so we don't step on Govardhan because Govardhan's Krishna. So we circumambulate like that. So yeah, we worship Govardhan as Krishna. I suppose some would worship him as a devotee because he serves Krishna. So okay, that aspect could be there, but yeah, we worship him as non-different.
There was a question in the chat box.
Yeah.
So there was an explanation about humility and depression regarding devotional service. Picking back off of that, how do you deal with sometimes feeling burnt out, not necessarily from service, but just from everything life throws at you?
How do we deal with feeling burnt out about everything life has been throwing us?
Yeah.
So
Sorry, Prabhu. So like burnout with life,
Okay.
and then still having to serve. Like you gave the example of oh, I didn't wake up for Mangalarti. And I know there's like a lot of times personally where I'm like, I'm just exhausted. Like, I'd
Right.
love to go back to bed. I'd love to do this, but it's like
Sure.
I always get there on Sunday to help in the kitchen, you know, do those types of things. But how do you continue to fight that being, I guess, in the everyday world? It's like, I just want to curl up sometimes and I want to get myself back.
I can relate. I can relate. So what I would always used to meditate on when I was in that sort of situation was that I used to have a job, right? You know, I used to be a retail manager. So that the hours weren't always, it wasn't a 9 to 5 job. It was sometimes early, sometimes later. And so there were absolutely times when my alarm clock went off that I did not want to wake up. But since it was a sense of duty, like I had to, otherwise I'd get fired, right? I'd go, you know, because there's consequence, right? So I'd do it. And then I realized at one point that, you know, I wish I had that same mentality for Mangalarti. You know, how many times did it when I was living in the temple, did I sleep in because, you know, whatever, because you don't see, in other words, you don't see material consequence, you know, there is you know, you will get a spiritual benefit if you go to Mangalarti, right? So if you look at it that way, in other words, we perform austerities all the time. We just perform those austerities for a different reason, right? For our material life. So from time to time, it doesn't mean, you know, you should feel bad that you're not going. It's just from time to time, when you have that, you know, situation where the alarm goes off and you intended to go to Mangalarti, but you're feeling, you know, maybe it's once a month or once a week, I don't know, whatever. But it's actually good, as I was talking with Sobaradhe Mataji, her example, is that when your body is telling you not to, when you kind of don't want to, when you just don't feel like you have the energy to do it, and you do it anyway, Krishna sees that and he rewards you. And then next time it's not so hard. And then you get the taste. Because first we have to do things because we know they're the right thing to do, right? And then, so we do that for a while, then we become steady with it. So, right? So you don't expect to be steady right off the bat. It's like, you know, sometimes you're going to do it, sometimes you're not. The more you can connect, the better. And then, you know, and then after you're steady for a while, then there will be a taste that will develop, right? And then you'll actually want to do it. It won't be a question of, you know, oh, I don't know if no, you'll actually want to do it. And then after doing it for a while, wanting to do it, then you actually become attached to doing it, where if someone tried to prevent you from doing it, they wouldn't be able to. It's attachment. So that's even stronger. So gradually it'll get stronger and stronger. Early on, sure, there's going to be a big fight, you know, because the mind values sense gratification more than it values association of devotees and spiritual cultivation, right? But if little by little we put aside, you know, it could be once a month, it could be once every 2 months. It doesn't have to be, you know, an everyday thing at first. We just have to put aside a time and say, I'm going to do it, right? And then when that alarm goes off, you know, first of all, you know, be intelligent about it and try to go to bed earlier, you know, the night before, if it's possible, and just, you know, plan it out. And, you know, because even in family, even if our family's not even interested in our cultivation of devotional service, most of the time we have supported families, so it doesn't matter. But even if they're completely against it, they can't argue that at least one night out of the week or out of the month, you can go to bed early, that you don't have to engage in all these different things. They would have to at least, you know, agree to that. You know, 29 days out of the month, you know, I will do whatever you need me to do, but this one night I got to go to bed early so I can wake up and do this thing. So gradually it's from one night to 2 nights, and, you know, then it's a couple times a week, and then, you know, it's more. But the point is, it's not the detail of Mangalarti, of getting up and going, like driving to the temple and being there. It's the mood that has to be established. So whether that's at Mangalarti or performing whatever service you're performing, that mood has to be established. And so for things like Mangalarti and japa and doing certain, you know, sevas, they're already, you know, designed specifically for cultivation of spiritual life. Whereas some of the other activities we perform, you know, they could be connected or they could not be connected. It could go either way. So we try to do the ones that are actually designed to elevate our consciousness, so that there's more of a chance that we will be focused instead of, being distracted. And so those opportunities, when we can, we take advantage of them. But if we can't, we shouldn't let that, pardon the ISKCON slang, but fry us out. We shouldn't let that take the wind out of our sails and make us lose all determination. It's just that we have to try a little harder next time. And also just make times when we don't want to do our material activities, but we do them anyway. And so that same sort of drive or motivation should also be there in our spiritual lives. It should be increasing anyway. It shouldn't be that, we should feel bad about the fact that I've never been late for work, but I've been late 700 times for Mangalarti in the last 2 years, right? It shouldn't be like that. And then all of a sudden, I just focus on Mangalarti and I don't go to work anymore and I get fired and everybody's mad. No, it's that there has to be a balance. So gradually shift that focus. And instead of doing the austerity for the sake of your material cultivation, you do the austerity for the sake of spiritual. And as I said, performing your material duties, it can be connected to Krishna. It's just harder to, because it's not, you don't have this specific thing where you're following this, process. It's possible. And eventually that's what the process of Krishna consciousness does, is it helps us to see how all of our activities, even just going to job to maintain the family, that's also can be directly, consciously fully engaged in Krishna service. And so little by little it'll get there, but the idea is just to, keep moving that needle over toward Krishna consciousness. And yeah, sometimes it's too much. The world is just too much, and we don't want to deal with it, and we need a break. And so that's there. But we should also make sure that we're doing something to remedy it, because what's the cure? Is the cure working, overtime to support the family? Is that gonna be better? Is that gonna make the situation better? It may temporarily, but it certainly won't eternally. And so when we see that and we actually recognize that, then we say, okay, this is the amount of time I will do my occupational duty, right? It's said that 8 hours is basically what you should do, because you should also engage with your family for a certain amount of time. So you find people who, in the name of trying to make a better life for their family, work too much and therefore don't interact with their family, the relationship goes south, right? And it doesn't work out. So we have to take all these things in balance. All of these things are important, but it also has to be known to the family that spiritual life is also important. So if each of the activities isn't engaged in Krishna service, then at least, some of the things should be. And wherever you can actually see that connection, we grab that and go with it. And where we don't, we try to redirect it. Mother Vindhyavali, you have something to add.
Nothing, Prabhu. Thank you very much for a nice class again. And then I was thinking that, that Govardhan Parikrama and Govardhan Puja, you are saying that they used to do 7 days. Here, 1 day is becoming problem. That too, if it falls on weekend, it's
we
fine.
try to do it in a half hour.
If it is weekday, people are thinking, oh, no, I have to go to work, I have to do this, I have to do that. I may not be able to attend. I said, okay, 7:30 you can do, you can finish your work and then you can come. So let me see what they do. That is one thing. And another thing is hard times, difficulties and everything, like Bhishmadeva was saying, and then Yudhishthira was having. Even Kunti Maharani was asking Krishna, give me these difficulties all the time and I will remember and I will chant about your name. That's what I felt. So yes, these difficult times, a lot of times, we all have in our families and other way, or some other way we'll have hard times. But at that time, if we can pray Krishna and just go towards to him, I think it will help a lot. So that's what I just felt, and I also wanted to just explain. And this in Kali Yuga, as you know that people are running about money, running about taking care of their families. So not that much time they are not able to devote for Krishna. So that is one thing bothers me. That's all I said. I wanted to say.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
And then I have long way, like Sobarada says, I have long way to go either, but I don't have enough time to go. Not like her, she's younger than me, but I am closer to other side. So I don't have enough time. I'm trying my best.
So the two of you have to just help each other stay focused. I'm sure you're already doing a fine job, despite what you say. I'm sure you're both doing a fine job. But yeah, that's the benefit of having a relative that's interested in Krishna consciousness is, it's because the material relationship is also there. I mean, it's a deep familiar, mother-daughter. That's a strong relationship. And so, so you add Krishna consciousness to the mix, and it just accelerates the process, right? If that's what the focus is.
Yeah,
So,
most of
that's
the he advises me too. So sometimes, if I do something wrong, and if she does, I just want to say, no, you're going out of the track a little bit.
Right.
So I don't know how far we can understand each other, but we do.
You're lucky to have each other.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for nice.
All right, Krishna. And Bob, was that sufficient for your question?
That was, thank you. Both you and Mother Vindavali gave a great feedback to that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good. Yeah, it was an important question. I'm glad you asked it. Okay, is there anything else? Otherwise, Acharya Prabhu, I'll find that soon and I'll send it to Sobarade Mataji. She could send it, or maybe I'll send it to the where the schedule comes, that email. That way it'll go also to you. That'll happen soon. And then is there anything else?
Hare Krishna, Chaitanya Prabhu. I just wanted to announce, thank you for a great class. What a wonderful way to absorb our consciousness for the rest of the day in this Govardhan Leela. Just wanted to invite everyone to the temple tonight. The program will begin at 6 o'clock. As you were saying, it's a condensed program. Unfortunately, we're not doing this for a long period of time, but considering the schedules and when people will be available, our program is from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. So it's a short program, so we hope everybody makes the whole thing so you don't miss out on anything. So we'll continue to hear about this pastime from Vishnu Gada Prabhu. We'll have kirtans, we'll have Govardhan puja, as well as parikrama. So we'll have Govardhan Shila there, and we'll all be able to circumambulate and walk around Govardhan, as well as the Anukut, all the various boga offerings to go to Giriraj as well.
Lots of service opportunities.
I'm sorry?
Lots of service opportunities there too.
Yeah. So please come if you want to come early to help out. You can come. There'll be devotees there in the temple room doing lots of preparations. They'll certainly ways to get involved if you'd like to join the festival ahead of time. So see you all tonight. Thank you. Thank you so much. Where are you right now?
Sure.
Tell us. You see the brick arches.
In Mayapur. So I'm in my hut in Mayapur.
Very nice. We're happy for you that you're there in the Holy Dham.
I'm happy as well. Yeah, I'm here. So for 17 years, I was studying Srimad Bhagavatam and then Chaitanya Charitamrita and developing a curriculum for 2 different schools. And so now I'm teaching at one of those schools, starting with Bhakti Shastri. We just started a few weeks ago. And it's a 12-year program. It goes all the way from Bhagavad Gita all the way through Chaitanya Charitamrita and all of the other books and some books of the Acharyas. So I'm quite fortunate that in my trips to Mayapur, I've made some very good friends that engaged me in some very nectarian services. So yeah, this is what happens if you take the association of devotees seriously in the study of Shastra. It definitely bears some obvious benefits. And so that's why we always encourage everyone to go ahead and try to study as much Shastra as possible, and to take advantage of sadhu sangha, because this process, it's going to save us. It is saving us. It's so much more valuable than the value we put into it. And so the more we realize how valuable it is, then the more we put into it, and then that's how that goes. But yes, I've tangented again.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. One
Srila
chakra.
Prabhupada.
Bisa vipassini beva cepati tanam kami vesil. Abu, you're so lucky. You're in Mayapur.
Yeah.
You're very fortunate. Pray for us.
Yes, quite fortunate. Yes.
We can get some mercy.
Okay.
Haribol.
May you all come here